This is going to be a crazy year, and I think it's about time we start talking term limits, and I think it's about time that we start talking legislation. What are the responsibilities of our elected representatives before any legislation is passed? We've got a lot of things to cover today. All right, let's go for it. Okay, welcome back to Continue Freedom. If this is your first time here, welcome. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments below. We are on X, Locals, Rumble, and YouTube. So today we're going to be talking about term limits. And now this is something that I'm pretty passionate about, and I've listened to arguments on both sides. You know, I try to stay up to speed on this. It's something that rears its head every now and then, but I don't think anybody's ever really taken it seriously. And here's the chief argument that politicians have against term limits, aside from the fact that once you get into whether it's the Senate or the House, you're there forever in most cases. Very seldom do people get elected and then leave. But we've got people like in the Senate, Chuck Grassley. He's been there 43 years. Mitch McConnell's been there 39 years. There's a whole slew of people, but one of the guys I'm going to focus in on today, which is Lindsey Graham, he's been there for 21 years. So that's not a time of political service. That's a new career. When you are doing something for 20 years, that is your career. That is your job. So, okay, let's say that they say that they need to have all this experience because this is a big, complicated machine, right? The federal government, it's a complicated machine. It's very difficult to understand the whole system, and it takes you, 8 years. By the time you get to 8 years or 10 years, you're just now starting to understand it. So now you can say, I'm the guy who's got the experience to work within this system to fix it, to change it. How much of change have we actually seen? For the good, how much change have we seen? Over 20 years, 30 years. Their approval rating is at the congressional approval rating is at 15%. 15% of the people say, yeah, I think they're doing a good job. That's not great. When 85% of the country says, nah, you suck. Like y'all are not doing it. You're not doing it right. This is wrong. You're not doing government right. That's basically what they're saying, right? And so we started to see the transition with Donald Trump. Now, I know Donald Trump was president. He wasn't in the Congress. But he was the transition saying, okay, this is when we the people are going to start taking control back. This system is supposed to serve us. These people are not our leaders. They love to say it. Pundits love to say it, that these are our leaders. No, they are our representatives. They can exercise leadership responsibilities within the House or within the Senate, but they are not our leaders. They are our representatives. They are our voice inside the federal government. And for 20 years, these people have been in positions, a lot of them. And I ask what we've seen, what positive benefits we've seen. Well, let's look at where we are now. We have a former president. I'm not putting all this necessarily at their feet, but these are the most powerful branches, or not. That's the legislative branch is the most powerful branch, supposed to be, of the federal government. We've oddly made the presidency far more power than the founding fathers ever intended. We're allowing legislation from the bench. So we've made the judicial branch much more powerful than the founding fathers ever intended. But the bulk of the power is supposed to reside in the House and in the Senate. And if you want to go further back, the House was really where all the power was supposed to reside. But we have a president who's being threatened with what equates to life in prison because it's hundreds of years if he's found guilty. We have sex tapes being filmed in the halls of Congress. We have satanic emblems in our government buildings. We have people lobbying in the House and the Senate for wars in Ukraine and saying that this is that Ukraine, they're flying the flag of democracy. Meanwhile, the guy that we're giving hundreds of billions of dollars to, he's arresting journalists. He's arresting political opponents. He's halting elections. He's going after the church. And we're supposed to believe, as told to us by Lindsey Graham and others, that this is the bastion, this is the fight for democracy. They're hearkening it back to the old Soviet Union, and that's who we're fighting a proxy war with, like we were in Afghanistan years ago. We have pro-Hamas protests going on in the streets and in the halls of Congress. We have people that are advocating openly for anti-Semitism amongst our elected representatives, and the elected representatives are supporting the people that are doing it in our cities and in our towns. They are we're having racially charged protests in the streets. We're having looting. We're having vandalism. We have groups openly supporting racism. So we have DEI and CRT and all these things, not just being part of the lexicon inside of Congress, but we're also having it inserted into our school curriculums, into our churches, and into casual conversation. We're telling innocent boys and girls. We have congressional representatives championing the mutilation of little boys and girls, cutting off their genitals, turning things inside out, taking linings of their stomach and all kinds of other things to make these Frankenstein versions of sexual organs on our children. Meanwhile, we're saying that we should be pumping them full of cancer-causing drugs and injecting them into a lifelong process of medical treatments, lifelong medical treatments that they'll have to undergo forever. And we have people in Congress that are championing that. And they're not just saying that this should be allowed, but they're saying that anybody that speaks out against it is a bigot. And like I say, federal judges were supposed to be the only lifelong appointments, but we also have now super PACs and people that are pumping millions and millions and millions of dollars into their preferred politicians, people that are going to allow them to have legislation written that benefits their companies. That's not the super PACs, but that's the people pumping money into the super PACs. And so now we have super PACs with tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars backing up political campaigns and leaving people in office for 20, 30, 40 years running unopposed. And I don't know why these people aren't primaried, but they've made a system now where once you're in, right? You're safe inside the humble abode. As long as you toe the line, we're not going to have any smear campaigns. Nobody's going to try to ruin your career. But anybody that wants to come up in the political system and do it by themselves, they have these super PACs, and these political campaigns have millions of dollars that they can pump into opposition research, that they can pump into smear campaigns to dig into your personal life and try to ruin you for daring to step out and daring to take a chance running for office or running against one of their preferred candidates. And all the while, the politicians that we have in office, they're going to sit and they're going to lie to us. They're going to tell us what they want us to hear. They're going to cherry pick information, and they're going to craft narratives to get us to go along with what they're doing, to make us think that that's what we actually want. And Lindsey Graham he's public enemy number one when it comes to this. And this is Lindsey Graham talking about Ukraine.
Let me tell you what will happen if we pull the plug on Ukraine. Putin will keep going. We'll be in a war with NATO. China will see that as a green light to go into Taiwan. It would be a national security nightmare for Europe. If you don't help Israel destroy Hamas, if Hamas is still standing when this is over, God help us all. I get everything. Now, where are the same people lecturing me about Ukraine on our border? Our border is a national security nightmare. They chose bad policies. It's bit them in the ass, and we're not going to continue these stupid policies.
And we're not going to continue these stupid policies. The only thing he said in there, like Lindsey Graham's trying to tell you, he's got it all figured out. He knows. He's got the inside scoop. He can tell you what's going to happen before it happens. He knows if we don't go to war, if we don't pump hundreds of billions of dollars into Ukraine, all this other crap's going to happen. The only thing he said in that statement was that the southern border is trash. But we've been saying the southern border is trash for a long time. Donald Trump was trying to do some things on the southern border, but people like Lindsey Graham, people in the political establishment, they woed it up. Because Donald Trump's not part of the Uniparty. Donald Trump's not doing things in accordance with the Uniparty's plan for removing borders, for opening up America to la-di-da-di everybody, to doing this George Soros version of a borderless world where everybody comes and goes with their digital IDs and all of these things. These are the foolish politicians. This is why the system has to be disrupted. Because Lindsey Graham he's a politician who has been in the system too long. He owes too much to too many people. He's corrupted by the system. Therefore, he needs to be voted out of office. He needs to be primaried. He is not representing the people of South Carolina. He's representing himself and his interests because he's in the pocket of defense contractors. He's a war hawk, just like Nikki Haley. Same concept. So I vote for Nikki Haley gets you the same thing. It gets you Lindsey Graham 2.0. And when we want accountability, so we want these elected representatives to say, you know what, if there is corruption, how about this? At least go after the corruption. If there's illegal activity going on inside of our federal government, do something about it. Well, here's what Lindsey Graham says about the
Okay,
impeachment.
let's turn to the other big story on Capitol Hill, the impeachment, of course, of impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Your colleague, Republican Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa, said that he does not see any evidence, quote, that the president is guilty of anything. Do you agree with him? Is there any evidence so far?
You know, I haven't really been paying that much attention to it. They have to prove that President Biden somehow financially benefited from the business enterprises of Hunter Biden. We'll see.
Have they done it yet, in your mind?
If there were a smoking gun, I think we'd be talking about it. But
there you go. He will get all hot and bothered, all flustered about sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. But when it comes to political corruption, it's, I don't really know. I'm not really paying attention. I'm not too worried about it. Is this seriously, if you're in South Carolina, comment below. Is this what you're looking for? If anybody else in other states, if this were your elected representative, if this was a senator representing you, what would be your thoughts on that? Leave it in the comments below. I want to know what you all think about that. He brushes off political corruption, but he's whooping and hollering about war. So how do we fix it? At the end of the day, I can sit here and bloviate about corrupt politicians all day long. I can bloviate about Chuck Grassley and his 43-year career inside of the Senate. Here's what we do. 8 years. You get 8 years. If you can't get it done in 8 years, you're gone. So there's number one. Lobbyists are no longer allowed on Capitol grounds. No lobbyists. Your corporations can't have people sitting in the offices. You know, we saw it during COVID when they drafted 3,000 pages of legislation in an omnibus spending bill, or 4,000 pages, whatever it was. I think the first one was 1,800 pages, and they turned it around like that. Who do you think is writing it? It's not the congressmen and women. It's not the senators who are doing this. It's not the people in the House that are drafting any of this stuff. It's lobbyists. It's special interests. It's people that already had this stuff drafted. They know that this is an open opportunity. When you just open up an omnibus spending bill and they say, we're just going to spend it on just everything, whatever you need, just tell me. We'll print the money. Don't worry about it. Just tell me what you need. And they flood it with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, which turns into thousands of pages that cost us money, that benefit them and do nothing for us. Well, lobbyists are no longer allowed on Capitol grounds. No more super PACs for elections. Do away with super PACs entirely. If you want to run a political campaign, you're going to have to get savvy. You're going to have to build your own little team, and you can go after social media influencers. Do like Vivek Ramaswamy. Do like Bernie Sanders. I mean, although Bernie Sanders already had a national platform because he was in office, he was a senator, but he was doing it $20 at a time, $30 at a time. That's how he was running his political campaign. Every single word of legislation that comes out of your office has to be generated by that representative, period. If there's workarounds for that, it has to be that you have at least read every single word and signed off on every single word that you put into it. So everything is going to be tagged with your name, and you are going to say, yes, I have read this bill, not just what you put in. Everything inside of that bill, before you vote on it, you have to read it. So you have a 4,000-page bill. Every person, before they vote it, they sign a document saying, yes, I signed off on that because I read it. And maybe then, we could start to slow things down a bit. And I do like the idea. I think it was, I can't remember who said it, but no congressman or woman, like their salaries are suspended until there's a balanced budget amendment. Until the budget is balanced, nobody gets paid. These are simple ways, to be perfectly honest, to get them to do their job, which is represent us, do things that are in our best interest, not their best interest. Because right now, this is a house full of narcissists. It's a building full of narcissists who just love not all of them. There are some who are there for the right reasons. They are doing the right things. And I applaud them for that. But they are part of a larger organization that is rotten with corruption, that is rotten with self-interest, narcissism. I mean, the Eric Swalwells of the world. These people they are not in this for service. They are in this for political clout. They are in this for TV time. They are in this to try to get a job working for CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS as a commentator, making a few million a year when they get out. Or they plan on staying in forever, having access to the information like Nancy Pelosi that generated her a $200 million fortune while she was sitting in the House of Representatives on a $200,000 a year salary. Tell me what you think about those ideas. But this is what we have to do. We have to start having the conversation now about changing the system back to something that resembles the vision our founding fathers had. Because this weird political public-private partnership amalgamation that we have now is nowhere close to what they wanted us to have. It's nowhere close to the vision that they had. Politics was service. It wasn't a career, but it is most definitely a career now. Let people come to Washington, D.C. You have the right to serve. You have the right to run for public office, to get elected by your peers, by your constituents. Go and serve them, and then leave. Because the caveat, the one additional thing that I didn't read off, but if you have been in the House, you've been in the Senate, and you worked in any capacity with a special interest, you cannot work for them for 10 years after you get out of office. But if we can eliminate all the lobbyists, that shouldn't be much of an issue. But we have to start changing the system back to what the founding fathers wanted. Tell me where I'm wrong. Y'all, I oversimplified that, but it's left open for your comments, left open for your suggestions. Let's put something together that we can send off to these people and be like, hey, here's our new plan. Let's build up this channel so we can start whooping and hollering about it on our own and telling these people, look, the system's got to change. You can't keep going with business as usual as you have been for the past 40, 50 years because the system is broken. It's no longer serving us, and it's time for a change. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments below. We are on X, Locals, Rumble, and YouTube, and I'll see you all in the next show.